Hi everyone, welcome to the session on Seesaw for creating and sharing at the 2020 MFPE virtual conference. I'm super excited that you're here. Just a note, this is not a beginner Seesaw session. It does assume that you have a certain level of knowledge of Seesaw. We'll be chatting about making some activities and using Seesaw to give feedback. My name is Tracy Piltz. I'm super happy to be presenting to you today. I work in Billings Public Schools as a tech integration specialist. I work mostly with our kindergarten through third grade teachers and students, helping them integrate technology into their classes. I am currently also a remote first grade teacher, and so getting lots of Seesaw practice using that virtually to teach 27 first graders online here in Billings. I'm a Seesaw certified educator. I've used Seesaw since right about when it actually first started, and I also work here in Billings with our Seesaw for Schools subscription. I'm the district administrator. I put my Twitter handle there as well. If you use Twitter, I'm very active on there. It's a great way to reach out to me and see what I'm up to. Lots of ideas from classes that I visit. So here is sort of the plan for today. We're going to investigate the activity library and just do a little review, make sure that we're familiar with that. We're going to create activities. So using those new tools that came out in the summer, the embedded video and links right on the drawing tool, we're going to look at some things we can create there. And then sharing and organizing, as well as using Seesaw for feedback and reflection. So these are the four main topics that we will be covering today. So I know we're not here live where we can have a discussion, but I still want you to take a moment to just reflect to yourself. Again, I'm assuming you're a Seesaw user, whether you've used it for years or maybe just started using it when we were remote last spring. Think to yourself sort of, how has your teaching changed since you began using Seesaw? And sort of write that down or just kind of keep that in your head for a moment for yourself. When I think about ways that Seesaw has sort of transformed my teaching, a big part of that is being able to create these really rich learning experiences for my students using the activities, either by creating my own or searching the activity library to find things that are already created. Not only was this fantastic during remote learning, but when you're in the classroom with students as well, there's one of you and maybe, 20 of them, really making these rich learning experiences in activities can help you almost clone yourself, provide them with examples, or teach them mini lessons in a video, and then give them some really rich step-by-step instructions so that they can be working independently as you're pulling small groups of students. So as you look at these activities, and if you'd like, you can open another tab and log into your Seesaw account, app.seesaw.me, and then log into your Seesaw account. If you browse the activity library, you can look for these titles. They're both created by Seesaw, Show What You Know in Math and Partner Reading Power for Beginners. You can take a closer look at these activities and really think about what makes them effective. So if you want to pause for a moment and check out these activities, you sure can. And what I really want you looking at is what elements of these activities make them really effective activities. When I think about these activities, things that I think are really effective are the fact that they've added the example, right? I'm not just asking them to do something. There's an example there with the math activity where they've annotated and showed how they want them to do that. The step-by-step instructions on both of them are very helpful. And then also adding the audio instructions. So adding your voice to that on top of those really explicit step-by-step directions. A lot of people point out those visual icons that students can look at that and see the picture of the camera or the microphone or the pen. So it makes it really easy for them to know what they're supposed to do. In the activity on the right, they've also utilized those teacher notes. And so this particular activity is tagged with learning standards, and that makes it searchable by those learning standards. When we think about experiences where kids are engaged, what makes them so engaging? I would say it's things where students are actively participating. They're making choice in how they share their thinking and learning. They have their hands on. Everything isn't created digitally. They are, building with blocks and playing with things, moving items around. The picture on this side here is using the iPad to create stop motion videos, but they're using, money counters and whiteboards and writing. So really, utilizing a lot of different modes of learning and really engaging them in different ways. When you look at the activity itself, it really should be like a well thought out lesson plan, that clear objective or why statement, the step-by-step text directions and adding audio directions, including multimedia examples or resources. So maybe I want to show my students a sample of something. Maybe I want them to read or watch or listen to something before they respond. Supporting that exploration through hands-on and digital tools. So everything doesn't have to be created right on the device. Part of what I love about Seesaw is utilizing the microphone and the camera and the video camera in order to take pictures of those hands-on things they're doing. Building sight words with Play-Doh, writing their ABCs in rice, doing a makerspace activity or a STEM activity, and then adding in that layer of reflection, which we'll talk about later. We know that students learn best when they are actively engaged in constructing and reflecting on their learning. So the objective today is to look at Seesaw activities and how we can use them to create transformational learning experiences that are going to support engagement, agency, and reflection for all of our students. So we're going to first dive into the activity library in Seesaw. You can get to the activity library from your Seesaw teacher dashboard by clicking the plus sign and then choosing Assign Activity. Once you do that, you'll get to a screen that looks like this. If you have Seesaw for Schools, you'll see 3 tabs. If you have free Seesaw, you'll see 2 tabs, the Community and My Library. Once you're in My Library, you can save an activity by clicking the heart and assign by clicking Assign. Once you've clicked the heart and chosen the 3 dots down at the bottom, you can actually copy and edit that activity. So I often search the activity library, and I'm going to go over into my activity library right now. I often search the activity library to find things that I might like. Once I find something that I like, if I want to use it with my students, I might want to click that heart that would save it into my library so I'd be able to find it again later. So I could click the heart. If I want to modify it, I click the 3 dots and copy and edit it. So now I can maybe add my voice reading the instructions, add an example, change the directions a little bit, however I need to modify this and adapt it for my students, and then I can save. When I'm ready to assign activities, I click on Assign. I'm able to assign to more than one class at once. I'm also able to edit the students that I want to receive, the activity, the folders that it might go into, and if you have paid Seesaw, you can also assign a skill. Also with Paid Seesaw, you can choose to schedule that activity. Students complete activities in the Activities tab by clicking on Add Response. So on the student screen, they'll go to the Activities tab and they'll see the green button that says Add Response. You as a teacher can actually complete an activity to demonstrate to the students by clicking on Add Response. Let me go back to my class here for a moment. I'll click on Add Response and I can choose the sample student. Then I can demonstrate that activity or try out that activity without posting it into any of my students' journals. Here are a couple of great ideas for remote learning and back to school. In the handout that you received, these should be clickable. One of them is a morning message and check-in from Robin Schumacher. You could make a copy of this and add your own morning message. I think this would be a great routine, even if you're in the building, to get used to, that would transfer really well to remote learning. The other is a fun Pigeon Goes Back to School activity that gives you an idea of how you can be creative with taking photos and then adding drawing on top of that and text on top of that. So if you'd like to take a moment, you might want to pause the video and get ready to explore the Seesaw Activity Library. Again, if you go to app.seesaw.me, you can log into your Seesaw account, or if you don't have an account, you can create a free Seesaw account. Click plus and then assign activity and take a moment to explore what's available in the community library. The next step, after you've spent some time exploring and adapting and maybe liking and saving, is to create your own activity. When you're in My Library, you can click the plus to create a new activity. You'll want to enter a descriptive title and be sure to include step-by-step directions. Directions on this activity include some emojis as well as some codes. The codes are sort of the secret to making those little visual icons appear. The codes are linked on this screen. So again, if you click here on this image, it'll take you to the icon shortcuts help page for Seesaw. You can bookmark that so that you always have it. But if you know these codes, you would put those into your directions. And then once you save that activity, that visual icon will appear in your step-by-step directions. Another thing you'll want to spend some time doing is thinking about the multimedia instructions or example. As I mentioned earlier, this is a great space to, again, provide an example of what you want your students to do. Maybe give them a video clip that you want them to watch, an article you want them to read, or you can open up the video tool and even record yourself teaching a mini lesson right into that space in Seesaw. Ideas, again, are the exemplar, videos, a demo video, or any other materials that might support students as they complete your activity. You also will add perhaps a student template for them to respond to. You'll have access to all of the Seesaw creative tools for making your examples and also for creating your templates. Notice a couple of the newer features are the embedded video tool right in your drawing template, as well as the ability to add links right into your drawing template. This can be used to link to choice boards, Bitmoji classrooms, or other things that you want your students to easily have access to. Again, now instead of having them click around to a bunch of different spaces, you could sort of have that all linked right into one post or one activity within Seesaw. And we'll take a look at how to do this in just a moment. Again, the bottom section here is asking for a student template. This is how you want students to respond. If you want to give your students choice in choosing from those tools and how they respond, you don't have to add a template. But if there is a certain way that you want them to respond, you would put that template here. So the example or the multimedia instructions or example is kind of for you to share with them. The template is how you want them to respond. Some of the things that teachers often add into the template section are graphic organizers, PDFs. Here's where if you have, a page or a worksheet that you've used in the past and you want to make that digital, you could upload that as a PDF or screenshot it and add that in here, and then students can complete it digitally. You can also take photos for students to annotate, create notes, and share guiding questions that you want them to respond to, or use the multi-page feature in Seesaw, if you have the paid version, to create multi-page templates for students to complete. So I'm going to take a pause from the slides here for a moment and do a little bit of a demo. One of the ideas is creating this Bitmoji or virtual classroom. I think some of them can be a little bit busy or take a lot of time to create. And I think that by making them inside of Seesaw, it can make it a little bit more simple and easier for students to navigate. So I'll show you how I made a simple classroom like this right within Seesaw. Again, this would be an option for just sort of providing those clickable links or things that you want your students to do in sort of a one-stop shop. So when I go into Seesaw, I can assign my activity. Remember, I'm going to go to my library and then choose Create New Activity to begin. So I'm just going to say Bitmoji, Classroom. Again, you would want to have those explicit instructions here. You'd have those icon shortcuts open, and you'll remember that when you want to put in a certain visual, you would just want to know what the code is. So I know the code for the little button is always add. I know the code for, let's say, the microphone is just the :MIC mic. So when you know those codes, you can add those in here to make those visual icons appear in your instructions. I am going to open up my multimedia instructions or example. This is where I'm going to put my Bitmoji classroom because I just want students to kind of click around, and then I might have them respond with something that they learned when they clicked around, or maybe something they created in one of the tools. So I'm going to go to the drawing template because, again, I can get to everything I need from the drawing template. I have some clip art, and I have the link in the handout as to where I purchased this clip art. You can also find lots of free, Bitmoji classroom background templates. I know lots of people have created those. You can do image searches. Remember that you want to be sure you're looking for fair use, copyright-free images and clip art to use. I'm going to click on the camera and upload some of the clip art that I had saved to my computer. So let's look here. Okay, so now I'm going to upload the clip art. I have a classroom background. I just grabbed a few items. that I'll just kind of drop in here. Notice how they're all coming in as separate elements here. If you want them to be clickable as separate elements, you have to bring them all in as separate images. Sometimes people create things in Google Slides, and then when they upload it from Google Slides, so I could upload it as a screenshot or as a PDF, it becomes a flat or static image. And so all of the separate things aren't separate images, and so I couldn't link to each separate thing. Or sometimes people bring those in and want them to be movable. They're only movable if you bring them all in as separate images. So again, when I went here and upload, I need to bring them all in separately. I also happen to grab my background last. So I need to click on the 3 dots and in order, make sure and send that to the back, because this is what I actually want in the back. And I'm just going to kind of drag it until it's about where I want it to be on my screen. I could now lock that background into place so that it's not moving around. This element I just kind of grabbed because it's cute. I could maybe write my ABCs or link something on there. I'm just grabbing a couple of things here just to give you an idea. I'm not going to build out a full classroom. Here's where I would then maybe link these 2 learning items, right? It's cute, but the whole point of it is I want to use it as a space to link them to things I want them to do or see. So a couple of ideas. I use the Math Learning Center apps quite a bit. So one of their newer manipulatives is they have a clock, virtual manipulative. So maybe I would grab the link to the clock, and then in my virtual classroom where I have the image of a clock, I'm going to click those 3 dots, and then I'm going to link that to the clock. Now that it's linked, I can lock it into place. Students would be able to click on that link and go to the clock and practice some of their telling time facts by clicking on the clock. Another idea, maybe I'm going to link my window to a calendar. I found this wonderful calendar template from a teacher, Ariel Junkard, online. I made a copy of it. She's using Jamboard. So this calendar template is collaborative. It's highly interactive. All of these pieces can be moved around. I'm going to grab the link to this Jamboard, and I'm actually going to link that on the window because it tells a little bit about, the weather and seasons and that sort of thing. So maybe I would have my calendar linked here onto this Jamboard. So again, I could continue to do that with different elements and build out my virtual classroom. I also really love that I could add a video right in here. So instead of adding a Bitmoji, maybe I would click on the video tool. I would have 5 minutes where I could then just open it up. Hi, this is Mrs. Piltz. I could explain to them what I'd like them to do when they're in my virtual classroom, whatever it is you'd like to share or tell, and then you could fit this onto your screen somewhere. You might want to add in a virtual, whiteboard, or maybe I even want to come here and find a shape. And I could, resize that shape, send that shape to the back. Oops, I sent it too far to the back. Here, what I want to do is I want to send this to the front. And then I could put this on top here and maybe even make myself like a little frame or something like that so it looks a little bit nicer on my screen with my directions. So you get the idea of how you could add in these elements and then just kind of build that out on your virtual classroom. A few other things to note, and I'm just going to keep building in the same activity rather than open new things. If you have the paid version, you can add multiple pages. Something I heard a lot is that students often don't know that there's another page. So another way you could use this link feature is by making buttons. So maybe I'm going to click on the text and just say next page or page 2 or continue. I like changing the style of that button so that it's filled in. I think it looks a little bit more like a button that way. I'm going to drag it kind of down to the bottom here. And now when I click to link, since I have an additional page, I could link to page 2. And again, I could now lock that into place. But when my students are done with whatever I asked them to do here, they could click next page and it will automatically take them then to my second page. So again, I noted that a lot of times people wanted to make activities with movable parts, and they'll maybe bring in a Google slide and don't understand why those parts don't move. Remember, everything you want to move needs to be brought in as its own separate image. So I'm going to click on, again, the upload tool. I have some other clip art sitting on my desktop here. Let's scroll. There should be some animals. Here we go. Again, because I'm bringing these all in as separate images, you'll see how now they could be dragged. They come in quite big. You need to resize them however you'd like to resize them. But often we like bringing in clip art or different images for students to sort, maybe, by types of animal or letter sounds. When we want to do those types of activities, the thing that we want them, maybe the graphic organizer or how we want them to sort, it can be created right in Seesaw, or it could be uploaded as a PDF or as an image, and that could be static in the back, but all of the things that you want them to move around have to be added as a separate piece here, and then you can move those around. If I wanted to bring in, say, that Google Slides background, you could save it to your computer, and you could then upload it as a PDF, or often I will open up, depending on how large it is, I might just open up that item and then just take a screenshot of it and add that in here as my flat background. One more thing I'll show you is more of a choice board idea. Let's say we're learning about Halloween and I want my students to just visit a couple of different websites. I want them to watch a video about Halloween, and then maybe I want them to do some games about Halloween. So I could change the background here. I might come here and make it an orange background. And then I'm going to utilize just that link tool again. I could do a screenshot and add in an image and then click to link to that image, or I could just grab the link to where I want it to go and then put that link directly in. So I have a video from PBS Learning Media about Halloween. I'm just grabbing the link, and then on the three dots, I'm going to say link. It's going to generate its own picture. So I didn't have to grab clip art or anything. It's just going to make a picture for me. So I might now place that on my board, and maybe I'm going to say, watch this first. And again, I'm just gonna, maybe I need a black for Halloween, right? And then the next thing I want them to do is play some Halloween games. And PBS Kids has a wonderful collection of games. So I'm now gonna grab that URL, come back to my activity, click on link, add that in. And again, it should generate its own little thumbnail image so that I don't need to take a screenshot or anything. It'll still show the students what it is that I want them to do. I'm going to lock that in place, and then I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. And then maybe I would say, play next, or however you want to word that. I might then want them to, maybe the instruction then would be to draw a picture, or use the microphone and tell me what they learned about Halloween or which game they had the most fun playing, however you'd want them to respond. So lots of different ways that you can sort of be adding new elements to your activities and making those activities really unique and special. So again, I told you that I would link some resources in here. Lots of places that I find clip art are listed in here, as well as some resources for creating those Bitmoji classrooms if that's something that you'd like to pursue. Here are some ideas for sort of leveling up activities. And if you don't follow Chris Shiner on YouTube, I would definitely recommend, I think his name is listed again in this handout. He has some really cool ideas like the text effects. He has some fun ways that he does that, adding in those buttons like we just did using the the text tool, using choice boards, linking to manipulatives, linking to other resources, and I really think utilizing that video is going to be super effective. A couple of his ideas, and again, this links to his YouTube channel, embedding a help form. So if you do have students learning remotely, creating a form in Google Forms that you could then link to on your Seesaw activities so they know how to reach out to you if they need help. He also has another great idea for creating those interactive Google slides and putting them onto Seesaw in a quick and easy way. Again, this is an example of where I would have that template in the background and then I would want those movable pieces. So he again shows you a quick and easy way to sort of convert some of those movable pieces and drop them into Seesaw as separate images so that they can be movable in Seesaw as well. I also love this example from Seesaw about a choice board. And so just a really simple activity here, but it gives them some choice. Not all of it is digital. So there's a template here, and then you can add in those choices for learning animal adaptations or whatever it is, the topic that you're studying. There's also a wonderful presentation here from one of our teachers in Billings and Seesaw certified educator, Amy Westrope. She's put together a whole presentation on using video in your lessons and for feedback within Seesaw. So again, this is a great time to explore. If you want to explore later, if you want to pause this and explore now, at app.seesaw.me, you can get into your activity library and start creating your own activities. Here's a little cheat sheet to kind of remind you you're clicking Create New Activity, really making sure that you are using that criteria for transformational activities and incorporating as many of those as you can. After we've created activities, we want to know how to share them. So clicking those three dots at the bottom of your activity and then choosing Share Activity will give you this menu. If you are a Seesaw for school, you'll see that you can share it to your school or district library so other teachers in your school can grab those activities you made. If you click Email to teachers, you'll get a list that looks like this. You can choose the teachers that you'd like to send it to, share to your school library, or when you're sending to your school library, you'll just put in your grade levels, subjects, and update activity. You can also just grab that activity link, copy the link, and then email it to whoever you'd like to share it with. I also think it's important when you're creating activities to utilize folders. You can filter responses and activities in the activity feed by folder. So if you click the wrench and get into your class settings, you can scroll to folders. You could create a folder for whatever topic makes sense to you. You can color code it, use emojis so that they stand out. And then this would be a great way to organize and filter those activities. Remember, when you're assigning your activity, you can put it into a folder as you assign it. All student responses will automatically go in that folder, and it'll make it so that you can filter by that folder when you're in the activity feed in your class. We looked at this before, but remember, you can also assign to certain students, send it to more than one class at a time, and premium users can also schedule those activities. The paid users also have a private folder where you can put items that only you as the teacher want to view. You can learn more about using folders at the web address that's listed at the bottom of these slides. It should be on your handout. Another handy tool in your activity library are collections. You'll see right here I'm showing you my collections. These are different than folders because they're just for you. It's just a way of organizing your own Seesaw activities. So I created all of these collections. It makes it a lot easier for me to go back and find activities that I used previously. Free users have 2 collections and Seesaw for Schools users have 500. So we're at the last portion of this presentation, looking at feedback and reflection. We know that it's really important to provide opportunities for students to receive feedback and to be able to reflect on their work. Keeping it in a digital space like this makes it easy to revisit that work. Providing feedback is also really easy for us as teachers using some of these tools. If you have the paid version, you have the opportunity to approve, delete, or you could send back student work. So you could provide feedback on the work and then send it back to them as a draft so they know they have some more work to do. You can edit and provide feedback right on their work by editing it with those three little dots, then clicking edit item and providing that feedback. Teachers also like providing audio feedback by using either the comments or the microphone within the item, or using digital stickers. And again, there is a little link in the handout that shows you how to create and upload digital stickers. Some people like using their Bitmojis, other people like using, creating their own little images that they can add as stickers. So let's come back to this class really quickly. I'm gonna get out of my activity creation here. And we'll get back to the class and kind of take a look at giving that feedback. So if I go to my journal tab, you'll see I have something here for review. Again, this is sort of my fake play around class. So there's not real student work in this class, but let's pretend this is something the student sent back for review. Again, you'll see I can approve it, delete it, or send it back. Approving it will make it visible to whoever can see her journal, her classmates, her family. Deleting it really does totally trash it. There's no way of getting it back, or I can send it back to her so she knows she has more to do. So I could give feedback just by clicking on comment. I could type in my feedback or use the microphone and leave an audio comment. Or like we looked at before, we can click those three dots and edit that item, and then I can get right into her item. I could use this draw and record tool to record my voice while writing or doing something. So I could be, circling her work, telling her to take a quick look at this particular piece, and then I'm going to say done. So I can be providing feedback right on her work. I can grab it way up in the corner there and drag, whoops. Sometimes it doesn't like to cooperate. There we go, and drag that so that this would just be a little feedback up in the corner of her screen. She would still be able to get on here and do all of her work. If you have the paid version and you can add multiple pages, I would recommend clicking the three dots and duplicating that page. So before you start marking up their work, you could actually just leave a copy of their work clean and then do your markups on a separate page. You can also, again, click on that video camera and just make a quick video of yourself providing feedback or maybe reteaching, and then that video can be shrunk down and also just kind of live in the corner like feedback. This is also how you'd add in those digital stickers, so you could grab a Bitmoji. Mine don't seem to want to load on this computer anymore. So if they load, you could just grab one and drag it onto the screen. Maybe if you have some digital stickers or images saved, you could just grab and drag. And then the important piece here is if you have the paid version, you're going to send this back as a draft so it shows up that they still have work to do. If you have the free version, you'll have to either just kind of approve it and then make sure that they know that they have some more work to get back in there and revisit. There is a little feedback and drafts cheat sheet in here that kind of talks you through those processes. Again, you can click on this image from the handout and you should be able to grab that. There's a wonderful article in here about the art of reflection from Edutopia that really talks about the importance of giving our students that opportunity to reflect and building that into our routine. I would definitely encourage you to read that article. You might also, if you use Chromebooks, check out the Reflect in Seesaw Chrome extension. It makes it super easy for students to grab a quick screenshot. So here it's asking if I want the whole area or if I want to grab a select area. So let's say this happens to me sometimes when I'm presenting, so we'll just kind of ignore that for a moment. What I would do is I would normally drag on that area to select what I would like to put into Seesaw, and then it will just automatically upload to Seesaw so I can annotate. Also, speaking of reflection, there are some great Seesaw reflection starters. Again, you can click on this link and get a printable copy, but really great starters for helping students begin to be reflective and either write or use the microphone to sort of talk through those processes on their work. There's a link here that goes into a little bit more detail about some of those updates that we just saw over the summer. Some great things in the activity feed for students where they're able to see in progress and to do and activities that are done, as well as filtering by those folders. If you're looking for support with Seesaw, you can find some examples by scanning this QR code and visiting my Seesaw example class. You can also link to all of these little images here to see some examples from students. A great place to get more training is at web.seesaw.me/training. They have some quick starts, some in-depth trainings, and then some mini trainings if you're looking at finding out more about things like folders or blogs or skills. You can also get help at help.seesaw.me. Check out some of my how-to videos in this Flipgrid, and of course, always search the Seesaw activity library. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. You can email, you can check out my website. You can also reach me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of the things that you might create or hearing about the things that you might create using Seesaw.